The Caitlin Clark haters had one job: turn Raven Johnson into Caitlin Clark's enemy. They clipped the wave off from the Iowa-South Carolina game. They ran with Johnson's "she broke me" comment, and then they started flooding timelines with takes about Clark being toxic, Johnson being better than Clark, Johnson deserving the starting spot. It was a whole constructed story with zero actual access to the Fever locker room. But here's what that narrative completely missed. By the time the Fever's preseason ended, Johnson was telling reporters that Clark saved her WNBA career before it even started. 1 month of practices and 3 preseason games, Johnson sat in front of a microphone and said something that nobody who was pushing that rivalry narrative saw coming. What do you think of Caitlin and Raven as teammates? Let me know down in the comments below.
You mentioned the bond you're building with Caitlin. Just curious, what's that been like? Because you've been so, I guess, inquisitive, and it seems like she's been very responsive to that.
Let's talk about the 2023 NCAA Final Four, because that's where this whole thing starts. Iowa versus South Carolina, and Raven's got the ball up top, surveying the defense, and Clark's right there supposedly guarding her on the perimeter. Clark reads the matchup, decides Johnson isn't a shooting threat at that moment, and waves her off like she's dismissing her. The clip spread everywhere because it looked cold. Not dirty, not flagrant, just cold and calculated in the way that only really confident players can pull off. Johnson didn't forget it. She carried that moment through the rest of her college career, through the end of her time at South Carolina, and right into a pre-draft interview 2 weeks before Indiana selected her 10th overall in the 2026 WNBA draft. She sat in front of that camera and told everyone that Clark broke her with that wave-off, that it embarrassed her, that it damaged her confidence so badly she actually considered walking away from basketball entirely during that stretch. That's not a throwaway comment. That's a player describing a dark period in her life and pointing to a specific person as the reason for it. And she named that person right before they became her teammate.
And then another adversity would probably be Caitlin Clark.
Look at how far Caitlin Clark is playing off of Raven Johnson. Caitlin Clark, left side. She doesn't even look at her, waves her hand as if to say, I don't care about you, I'm not defending you.
That's one reason I hate the internet now. Because of that situation, like I got bashed, I got bullied, I got called all these things that I wasn't, aka like a monkey or this, I don't know, like it was just things like that. And I just think I wanted to quit basketball at that time. And I wanted to just go in this little bubble of isolation and just be by myself.
Picture this from the Fever fans' perspective. Your franchise player, the reason your team sells out arenas and trends on social media every week, just got called out publicly by someone Indiana was about to hand a roster spot to. The locker room hadn't opened yet, and the drama already had a quote attached to it, a real one, on camera, with no room to say it got taken out of context. The South Carolina piece made it land harder too. Johnson wasn't just some random player with a grudge. She came out of Dawn Staley's program, a program that had real history with Clark's Iowa teams across multiple tournament matchups. So when Johnson spoke, it felt like she was carrying something bigger than just her own feelings about one play.
Bro, the Fever really selected Raven Johnson as the number 10 pick to come play with Clark. Do y'all remember this? Clark waving her off in college, and then she recently was talking in an interview about it again, about how she got waved off, and now they gonna be playing together.
That's exactly what the people pushing the rivalry narrative needed. Not speculation, not anonymous sources. An actual statement from an actual player who now had to walk into the same facility as Clark every single day. They had the wave-off clip, they had Johnson's words, and they had him defensively, because her instincts and her energy at that end of the floor are real. But a lot of fans were looking at that pre-draft interview and asking whether Indiana had just drafted a locker room problem, and that question was sitting there unanswered, hanging over everything, right as training camp was about to open.
Caitlin Clark and Raven Johnson have real history, and now they have to make it work on the Fever. The Fever took Raven Johnson with their first-round pick in the 2026 WNBA draft, and the first thing most people thought about was her history with Caitlin Clark. Clark and Johnson guarded each other when Iowa played South Carolina in the 2023 Final Four. Clark went off in that game, and whenever she was guarding Johnson, she basically dared her to shoot it at the three-point line, even waving her off at one point. Johnson, who was not a three-point shooter at that time, got a lot of flack on social media for that, and she said in a podcast last month that she even considered quitting basketball because of the criticism she received. But Johnson in the Gamecocks got their win back against Clark and the Hawkeyes in the 2024 National Championship game, which shows that there's real competitive history here. And now they're not just teammates, they're going to be going up against each other every day during practice.
Once the draft happened and that pre-draft interview started circulating again, 3 specific narratives took off. And they weren't random, they were all pointing at the same target. Make Clark look like the problem and make the Fever look. Clark and Johnson hated each other. The wave-off clip kept getting reposted. Johnson's "broke me" quote kept getting screenshotted. And people with nobody had a source. Nobody had a quote from a coach or a teammate. It was a 3-year-old college clip and one pre-draft interview getting stretched into a story about a franchise falling apart from the inside.
People in the Fever were like, y'all.
That's not my point. There's a lot of other shit going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new
it's
shit going on around there.
It's a lot. Yeah. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
The second narrative was sneakier because it didn't need specific evidence to spread. Clark was toxic in the locker room, and the wave-off became the proof of that, even though it happened in a college game years before Johnson ever put on a Fever jersey. All this narrative needed was for people to accept somehow the most viral. Johnson was better than Clark right now, so Clark should come off the bench while Johnson started. People pushed this with straight faces, using Johnson's defensive ability and energy as the justification. And if you spent more than 10 seconds thinking about it, you could see exactly what it was really about, because it had nothing to do with basketball.
Those of us that have been following the Gamecocks for longer than a couple of years know Raven Johnson is literally her. It is unfortunate that sometimes she does not get the respect that she deserves. I don't know what you guys thought was about to happen, but this is Raven Johnson, 18 minutes off the bench. First preseason WNBA game. She just got done playing college basketball, you guys. It's only April.
None of these 3 narratives had any reporting behind a guard who came out of one of the best programs in college basketball, with championship experience and real instincts at the point of attack. All of that was getting buried under a story about her feelings regarding a wave-off from 2023. Her actual basketball ability, the things that got her drafted 10th overall, barely came up in any of these conversations because the grudge story was louder.
Caitlin is a player who can play on and off the ball. Raven is a point guard that primarily has had the ball in her hands, and so I think it gives us some versatility. You know, thankfully, having a couple of different guards gives us the ability to allow Kelsey to rest a little bit too. So, you know, I think we'll have a pretty good rotation when it comes to our perimeter players. You know, especially in the 1 to 2 spot. I think it'll give us a lot of different ways that we can play, a lot of different matchups that we can play against. We can get different looks. So I think it's going to be really important. And we can go with a defensive lineup. You know, when you've got somebody like Raven.
And the explosion never came. Johnson walked into the Fever facility and did something that nobody pushing the rivalry narrative had accounted for. She asked Clark for help. Think about what that actually took. Johnson had sat in front of a camera weeks earlier and told the world that Clark broke her, and now she had to walk up to that same person every morning and say, "Hey, I don't understand this read. Can you walk me through it?" The WNBA game moves differently than college ball. The terminology is different. The ball screen reads are different. The pace and spacing ask things of a young point guard that college just doesn't prepare you for, and Johnson ran into all of that fast. The person on that roster who understood those concepts better than anyone else was Clark. So that's who Johnson went to.
That's the best way to learn, is to ask questions. I still ask questions of coach every single day because I still need to learn, and you know, trying to be that not only for Raven but the rest of the rookies or the new people that are out to this team, whether you've played in this league for 10 years or whether you've played in it none. Like, there's people that are still learning our system. So just been trying to help her, and she asked a lot of really great questions, and as a point guard it's a whole nother load to carry as well. So just trying to help her in every way I can.
Clark's response told you a lot. She didn't make it weird, didn't hold the pre-draft interview over Johnson's head, didn't treat the questions like an inconvenience. Clark walked Johnson through the reads, stayed late to work through the concepts, and answered everything Johnson brought to her. Clark even talked about it publicly, telling reporters that Johnson asks a lot of really great questions, and adding that, as a point guard, it's a whole other load to carry, which is Clark acknowledging out loud that she understood what Johnson was going through and took it seriously enough to help. Johnson had to consciously decide to put 2023 down. That's not automatic for a 22-year-old. especially one who'd gone on camera and attached her name to those feelings publicly. The easier path would have been to stay guarded, keep some distance, let the pre-draft interview quietly define the relationship from a safe remove. Johnson didn't do that. She put the past down and focused on getting better, and Clark met her there.
Steph, what do you think of just the energy that Raven brought you for the second straight preseason game, particularly when it came to playmaking? I mean, we see the steal all the time, but the offensive side.
I love her energy. And, you know, the thing I love about Raven is, like, there was one possession right in front of our bench where she turned it over. She didn't sit there and pout and sulk. She got that thing back, right? Like, she's going to bring energy. She's going to be a spark off the bench. It's going to... You know, it's going to ebb and flow as throughout the course of the season, as it does with a lot of rookies. But at the same time, we know she's going to bring it on the defensive end. I mean, 5 steals, 5 assists, you know, really good stuff.
Stephanie White's staff noticed Johnson's energy right away. She was generating deflections in practice, pressuring the ball, pushing the pace in transition, and doing the things that make coaches trust a young player fast. Clark bringing her along only accelerated that process because Johnson was learning the offense at the same time she was tearing up the defense, and both things were happening quicker because she wasn't spending any energy on a grudge. The basketball logic of their pairing started clicking pretty fast once you watched them together. Clark draws so much defensive attention that she needs a guard beside her who can defend on the ball and make opposing guards uncomfortable, and Johnson is exactly that player. Their styles don't compete with each other, they actually solve each other's problems. So what the haters framed as a conflict was really just two guards whose games fit together in ways that Clark, at least, could already see from day one.
So, I mean, that's what she can bring to this team is that defensive mindset. She's picking up 94 feet every single time. She's bringing the energy every single time she's in. And, you know, I think just her continuing to do that will be huge for us.
The Nigeria game was supposed to be a tune-up. Low stakes, get some reps, stay healthy, move on. But before it even tipped off, Clark and Aaliyah Boston had a moment on the court that stopped people mid-scroll because Boston had been out since an injury at Unrivaled earlier in the year, and this was the first time she and Clark had shared a court since July of 2025, almost a full year apart. Before the game started, Clark walked up to Boston and ran their pre-game ritual, telling her, "You're going to be amazing because you are amazing." And the way both of them reacted after that exchange told you more about what this team means to these two players than any press conference could.
You're going to be amazing because you are amazing. Thank you, too.
Going the other way. Clark going behind the back. Oh, it's Boston, and they have won.
I think I would beat Caitlin for sure. Okay. Yep, I'll show her my range.
She's only getting better and better. Like, you see it with each game. Like, she just continues to improve. For me, like, coming here to Indianapolis, like, that was one of the things I was most excited about, of getting an opportunity to play with her. And not only is she a great basketball player, but she's a great person. She's a great leader in our locker room. She's always had my back. She's been there for me, you know, through the beginning of the season. When games are great, when games aren't great, like, she's just somebody that I can lean on.
Boston's return mattered beyond the emotional piece, though. She's the player who makes Clark's offense run differently, because the inverted pick-and-roll wrinkles that Stephanie White has built around those two create reads that defenses genuinely struggle to stop. And the Fever had been working through camp without that piece fully available. Getting Boston back on the floor against Nigeria was a real test of how fast that chemistry could come back online.
Off to help on a driver that you know has to finish at the rim.
Oh, look at Boston, brings the ball up the floor and then takes it in herself off the Caitlin Clark.
Clark played 12 minutes and scored efficiently, distributed the ball, and operated at a pace that looked sharper than where she was at this point last year. White's offense is giving her cleaner looks because the ball movement and spacing are actually working the way they're supposed to. And in that short window, Clark looked comfortable in a way that matters heading into a full regular season.
Doing so.
Clark's still looking for her first points here tonight, and she gets them.
Kelsey Mitchell scored in ways that somehow always look accidental until you watch the footage back and realize how deliberate every move actually is. Sophie Cunningham brought the physical edge that makes the Fever's second unit genuinely hard to play against. and Michaela Timpson showed the growth that White's staff had been talking about since camp opened.
They're still shooting at 73% from the field. Mitchell, handoff, busted, she hits a three, and a foul.
There's that get action for Mitchell.
But let's talk about Damiris Dantas because nobody had her circled on the Nigeria preview. Dantas struggled badly through the entire 2025 season, and at points it genuinely looked like her shooting touch had left her for good. Then she went 4 for 6 from 3 against Nigeria, and suddenly every Fever fan was asking the same question at the same time. Is her shot actually back? If Dantas is shooting the ball like that on a consistent basis, the Fever now have a stretch big who can punish defenses that collapse on Clark and Boston in the paint. And that changes the math for every team trying to take away Indiana's first and second options. Johnson also got time on that court and used it exactly the way she'd been using every practice rep, pressuring the ball, generating steals, making it uncomfortable for anyone trying to bring it up against her, and White specifically called out her defensive presence after the game. Raven Johnson sat down in front of reporters after the Nigeria game and called Caitlin Clark the GOAT. Not in a casual, offhand way, not buried at the end of a longer answer. She called Clark her mentor, said Clark took her under her wing as a professional, and then told the room that when she put the Indiana Fever jersey on, she said to herself, "Let's try to win a championship together." That's the whole quote. No ambiguity, no hedging, just a 22-year-old rookie telling the media exactly where she stands. Think about the distance between "she broke me" and "she's the GOAT and my mentor." That's not a PR pivot, and it's not a coached answer. A PR pivot is vague. It smooths things over without actually saying anything. What Johnson did in that press conference was specific. She named what Clark did, named what Clark gave her, and explained exactly how Clark treated her from day one, which means she lived it and then described it out loud.
She's loving. Like, she's a goofy person. I think a lot of people don't really know her outside of basketball. Outside of basketball, she's funny. Like, she has so much personality. I think that's what people need to know about her. Like, her personality goes a long way, and she's a great person. And I think that goes, like, she helps me through every little thing. Like, I could ask a question and she has an answer for it. So I think that's, like, just playing with somebody like her, it means a lot to me. But she also has that sense of humor where she makes me laugh too. And I'm like, Kaylin, where did that come from? So it's like little things like that. But I'm also funny too. So I think that's where we kind of match together and we vibe with each other like that. So I love being here with her.
Clark had been matching that energy in every media session throughout camp and the preseason, talking about how much she enjoyed playing with Johnson, calling Johnson's questions genuinely good ones, saying she wanted her to succeed. The consistency between what both players kept saying publicly, without coordinating their answers, is the clearest sign that none of this was manufactured. So what did Clark actually do to earn that label from a player who'd gone on camera weeks earlier and blamed her for a rough stretch of her life? Clark answered every question Johnson brought to her, stayed late to work through concepts, talked Johnson up in front of reporters when she didn't have to, treated Johnson's arrival not as a complication, but as a straightforward opportunity to help a young guard get better, and Johnson noticed every bit of it.
And then building off of that, how much do you think just competitive spirit? Like, you both want to win a championship, have played a lot of big games, played against each other, trying to win big games. So, like, what is it like, and how quickly did you kind of like marry those two ideas of like, all right, we're teammates now, it's time to go try to win here?
Yeah, I put the past in the past. Honestly, when I put the Indiana Fever jersey on, I said let's try to win a championship together. And I think, you know, with her, that's all she talks about is winning, pro habits, and like the little margin for room are ever very small when it comes to like the finals games. She talks a lot about that. So I just be telling her like I want to do whatever it takes to win. Like I want to win a championship, and that's really the big goal for me and my teammates.
The basketball side of this matters too, because the Clark-Johnson pairing isn't just a good story. It's a real problem for opposing teams. Johnson's pressure on the ball and her ability to generate steals in the open court gives Clark room to operate as a playmaker without carrying the full defensive burden in the backcourt. Johnson can also play on and off the ball, which gives Stephanie White options across a full 44-game season that she didn't have before. And behind those two, you've still got Mitchell, Cunningham, and a bench that can actually score. The people who spent months trying to turn Johnson into Clark's enemy accidentally made this moment land about 10 times harder than it would have otherwise. If they'd never pushed the rivalry narrative, Johnson calling Clark the GOAT would have been a nice quote. Because they spent months screaming about locker room drama and toxicity and grudges, Johnson walking up to a microphone and saying, "Let's try to win a championship together," hit like a door slamming shut on the whole conversation.
Kind of building off that, Caitlin, Raven kind of joked at the media day that she asked you 1,000 questions on the first day of training camp. What's that relationship kind of been like as she's been asking questions and you kind of being the mentor a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it all kind of happened so fast. Like, I remember when I was working in the terminology, it's like the hardest thing to kind of understand. Like, the WNBA is a completely different style than what you play in college. And, you know, I think also coach, like, there's veterans around or people that have played in coach's system for a while, and that, like, she expects that of us to help the younger players, and that's what we're going to do, and that's what we want to do. And
the haters needed Clark to be a villain and Johnson to be a victim. What they got instead was Clark taking a rookie under her wing, and that rookie going on camera to call her the GOAT. And Dallas Wings fans watching that press conference clip should probably feel at least a little nervous right now. May 9th is the opener, and the Fever walking onto that court have Clark and Boston back and healthy, Mitchell scoring from everywhere, and a backcourt with Clark and Johnson that opposing guards haven't had to prepare for before. Boston's already talking about making the right reads to find Clark and Mitchell when defenses collapse, which tells you the offense is being built around movement and options, not just one player. What do you think of Caitlin and Raven as teammates? Let me know down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.